To answer some common medical questions, joining us is News Channel 5's medical specialist, Dr. David Soria. He is the Chief of Emergency Medicine at Wellington Regional Medical Center. First of all, thanks so much for coming in, Doctor, and answering our questions. Okay, here's something that I'm a sleep-deprived person working this morning shift. You're a doctor. You don't get a lot of sleep as well. Today, we're dealing with that, and I want to ask this question. Can herbs and supplements help you sleep?
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, and let me just start off by saying this, and that is that there isn't a lot of scientific data to support whether they work or not. And the FDA, as you know, doesn't regulate these over-the-counter supplements, so the risks and the benefits are not proven. That being said, there are plenty of people that swear by some of these. So let's go down the list real quick. Okay. Chamomile, it's out there. Not real proven, certainly not very useful, but pretty harmless. Kava. Kava has been used for a long time for anxiety and insomnia. One downside, can cause liver failure.
Okay, it's a big downside.
You betcha. Then there's also melatonin. Now, melatonin is one that actually does have some science behind it, has not been approved for sleep disorders. It does help people fall asleep about 40 minutes faster, but it doesn't actually keep them asleep. So it's not used for people that are awakening during the night. But if you have trouble falling asleep, it's a pretty good medication. Now, all of that is important, but one thing I really want to make sure that you do, that if you're going to try any of these herbal medications over the counter, make sure you talk to your doctor, because a lot of these have interactions with some of the prescription medications that you take, and make sure you get their approval, okay?
I don't want to combine the wrong thing.
That's right.
Let's move on to our next question then. How much sleep time does a typical infant and typical teenager need?
Yeah, well, you ask them about 7 o'clock when it's time to get up for school, and they'll tell you they haven't had enough.
Right.
But, it always varies on the individual. And so, just as a general rule, newborns to 1, they get about 15 hours of sleep a day. Obviously, not all at once. About 4 hours per episode. 1 to 6 start off at an average of 12, and then it decreases to about 10 hours by 6 years old. 7 to 12, they get an average of about 9, and then after 12 to about 18. They average about 8 to 9, typically with a bedtime of about 11 o'clock at night. So that's as a general rule. But again, everybody is different. The one way you can tell somewhat reliably as to whether or not your child is getting enough sleep is a change in their behavior pattern. So for example, they don't get necessarily tired or sleepy like we adults do. Instead, they can get hyper, they can get grumpy, agitated, a little restless, and they lack or lose some of their concentration. So the key is get them on a routine. When it's time to go to bed, pick a good bedtime. Let's say it's 9 o'clock. Give them a 30-minute warning, give them a 10-minute warning, give them a wind down period, and put them right to bed.
I'm smiling because I'm sure all you parents out there are watching and be like, if it was so easy. I always tell them, hey, the sun goes down. I mean, what do you think is going to happen next? You're going to bed pretty soon. So 9 hours. I wrote that down for my 8-year-old. I'm going to keep that in mind. Well, if you have a question for Dr. Soria, you can send it by going to our website, WPTV.com, and clicking on the health link. Just scroll down on the right-hand side. You'll see a form to write your question. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week, and we'll be right back after this.